The reservation. The restaurant was dressed in red. Not the cheerful red of Christmas sweaters or candy canes, but the deep, theatrical kind. The kind that made shadows look darker and secrets feel heavier. Every table had a single rose in a thin glass vase. Candles trembled in small hurricanes of glass. A violinist stood near the bar playing something slow and almost mournful, even though couples around the room were laughing and clinking glasses. Emma Hartley sat alone at table 12, the table by the window. Her reflection floated faintly in the glass, layered over the glow of city lights outside. She adjusted her hair for the third time, checked her phone. No new messages. 7:14 p.m. Her boyfriend, Ryan, had made the reservation himself. First Valentine's Day together. He'd said it would be special. She tried to swallow the tightness in her throat. Emma wasn't the type who liked waiting, but she had waited before. Back in high school, she had waited 4 years for someone else. A draft slipped through the door as it opened. Laughter spilled in. A group entered. The hostess guided them toward a table near the center. Emma looked up casually, and the world stopped breathing. Daniel Reyes. He hadn't changed, not in the way that mattered. Same dark eyes that always looked like they were thinking too much. Same slight curve to his mouth, like he knew something the rest of the world didn't. Her first love. Her almost. He was helping a girl out of her coat. Blonde, polished, confident. The kind of girl who didn't wait for boys to notice her. Emma's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Daniel laughed at something the girl said. He leaned closer to hear her. His hand rested naturally at the small of her back. Emma's pulse turned uneven. He never noticed her in high school the way she noticed him. Not really. She had loved him in silence, loved him through hallway glances, through chemistry lab partners that were never her, through football games where she sat 3 rows behind him and pretended she wasn't watching. And then graduation came. He left. She stayed. Life moved. Now here he was. And she wasn't 16 anymore. She wasn't invisible. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She flinched. Ryan, running 20 minutes late. Traffic insane. Don't kill me. She stared at the message. 20 minutes. Daniel was only 10 feet away. He hadn't seen her yet. Or had he? The violinist shifted songs. Something slower. Something that felt like a memory unraveling. Emma told herself not to look again. She looked anyway. Daniel's eyes lifted. They locked. For a second, confusion flickered across his face. Then recognition. Then something else. Shock. He said something to the blonde girl, excused himself, and stood. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as he crossed the restaurant. Every step felt unreal. When he stopped at her table, neither of them spoke immediately. Up close, she saw the faint scar on his chin from sophomore year basketball, the one she used to trace in her imagination. Emma? He finally said. Her name sounded different in his voice now. Rougher. Hi, Daniel. Silence expanded between them like a fragile bridge. You look... He paused. You look exactly the same. She smiled faintly. That's not possible. He glanced toward his table. The blonde girl was watching, not smiling. I didn't know you were in the city. I didn't know you were either. Another silence. Not comfortable. Not yet. You're here with... He asked carefully. My boyfriend, she replied, and the word felt heavier than usual. He's late. Daniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Right. I'm here with... I see, Emma said gently. He followed her gaze. The blonde girl looked composed, but her eyes were sharp, measuring. She's my girlfriend, he said. Claire. Of course she had a name like Claire. Well, Emma said softly, Happy Valentine's Day. Something flickered in his expression. Regret? Nostalgia? Something unfinished? You too, he replied. Neither of them moved. The candlelight between them trembled violently, as if reacting to the tension. You ever think about high school? He asked suddenly. Her breath caught. Sometimes. He studied her face in a way he never had before, like he was seeing something he'd missed. I used to think you hated me. Her heart lurched. What? You were always quiet around me, avoided eye contact. She almost laughed. I didn't hate you, she said quietly. Claire stood up. She saw it in the reflection before she saw it directly. Claire approached with controlled elegance. Daniel noticed too late. Everything okay? Claire asked, her voice smooth but cool. Daniel stepped slightly aside. This is Emma. We went to high school together. Claire smiled. It was the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. Oh, she said. The quiet one. Emma felt something inside her stiffen. That's one way to describe me. Claire's gaze lingered on Emma's empty seat across the table. Waiting long? Claire asked sweetly. Not too long. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Claire looped her arm through his. We were just about to order, Daniel. The waiter's waiting. It wasn't a request. Daniel hesitated. For a fraction of a second, Emma thought he might stay. He didn't. Good seeing you, he said softly. You too. He walked back with Claire. Emma sat very still. The restaurant felt colder now. Her phone buzzed again. Make it 30 minutes. I'm so sorry. She stared at the words. 30 minutes. Across the room, Claire leaned in close to Daniel. Too close. Her fingers pressed into his arm possessively. She said something in his ear. Daniel glanced back. Claire noticed. Her hand tightened. The candle flame on Emma's table flickered violently, nearly going out. For the first time that night, Emma felt something she couldn't name. Not jealousy. Not exactly. It was something darker. Like the past had been dug up and left exposed, raw, vulnerable, naked under the red lights of Valentine's Day. And it wasn't done with her yet. Outside the window, a siren wailed somewhere far off in the city. Inside, Claire smiled again. And this time, Emma was certain of one thing. Claire wasn't afraid of losing Daniel. She was afraid of Emma remembering something. And Daniel looked like he just realized he'd lost something years ago.
The girl in red. The waiter refilled Emma's water without asking. She hadn't touched it. The ice had melted completely, leaving the glass sweating against the linen tablecloth. A damp ring spread slowly beneath it, like time marking territory. Across the restaurant, Daniel sat rigid in his chair. Claire, however, looked perfectly composed. She had changed the energy of the room without raising her voice, without making a scene. She leaned toward Daniel, speaking softly, her manicured fingers tracing invisible lines along the rim of her wineglass. But her eyes kept drifting toward Emma. Emma told herself she was imagining it. Ryan still hadn't arrived. 7:36 p.m. She considered texting him again, then stopped. She didn't want to sound needy, or worse, desperate. She straightened in her seat. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Romantic dinner, first Valentine's together, maybe dessert somewhere after, maybe laughter. Instead, she felt like she had stepped back into a hallway from 10 years ago, lockers slamming, whispers floating, Daniel walking ahead of her with sunlight in his hair, and her always 2 steps behind. The violinist changed songs again. Something minor, something tense. Emma finally picked up the menu, though she wasn't reading it. A shadow fell across the page. She looked up. Daniel. Again. Claire was still at their table, but this time she wasn't watching. Or maybe she was pretending not to. Hey, Daniel said quietly. Her pulse quickened. Hey, I didn't want to just walk away like that. You didn't, she replied softly. He glanced back toward Claire. She was speaking to the waiter now, but her posture was stiff. Are you really happy? Daniel asked suddenly. The question felt like a hand pressing against something fragile inside her. With Ryan? He nodded. Emma hesitated. She thought of Ryan's easy laugh, his predictable plans, the way he liked everything neat and uncomplicated. Yes, she said, I think so. Daniel studied her face as if searching for cracks. I used to think about you, he admitted again. Her breath caught again. After graduation, I kept wondering if I should have... Claire's chair scraped loudly against the floor. Both of them turned. She was standing now, and this time she wasn't smiling. She crossed the restaurant slowly, deliberately, every step controlled, every eye in the room subtly noticing. When she reached them, her gaze moved between Daniel and Emma like a blade choosing where to land. I thought we were ordering, Claire said calmly. Daniel straightened. We are, You just what? The air shifted. Emma felt it, the temperature drop, the way conversations at nearby tables softened instinctively. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. Claire's attention moved to Emma. I don't mean to be rude, Claire said, voice smooth as silk, but some things belong in the past. Emma swallowed. Maybe, but sometimes the past doesn't stay there. Claire tilted her head slightly. You're waiting for your boyfriend, right? Yes. And he's late? Emma stiffened. How do you know that? Claire's lips curved. You've checked your phone 6 times since Daniel stood up. Daniel looked startled. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. Claire stepped closer, not invading space, but close enough that Emma felt it. Men who are late on Valentine's Day, Claire said softly, usually don't value what they have. The words hit harder than they should have. Daniel frowned. Claire, what? She said lightly. I'm just being honest. Emma forced a calm breath. Ryan values me. Claire held her gaze a moment longer. Then she leaned toward Daniel and whispered something Emma couldn't hear. Daniel's face drained slightly of color. Claire stepped back. We'll let you enjoy your evening, whenever he arrives. She walked away. Daniel lingered for 1 second more. I'm sorry, he muttered. For what? He didn't answer. He just returned to his table. Emma's phone buzzed again. Her heart leapt. But it wasn't Ryan. It was an unknown number. You shouldn't have come tonight. Her stomach dropped. She stared at the screen. Another message. Some things are better left buried. Her throat tightened. She scanned the room instinctively. Claire was seated, laughing at something Daniel said, but the laugh looked forced. Daniel wasn't laughing. Emma typed back before she could think. Who is this? The 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. You know who this is. A chill crept along her spine. Her eyes moved slowly toward Claire. Claire wasn't holding her phone, but that didn't mean anything. Emma typed again. What do you want? This time, no response. Her chest felt tight. She stood abruptly, needing air. The hostess glanced at her, but said nothing as Emma moved toward the hallway near the restrooms. The lighting there was dimmer, quieter. Her reflection in the mirror looked pale, exposed, as if the red glow of the restaurant had peeled something off her, left her emotionally bare in a way she hadn't expected. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel doesn't remember everything. Her hands trembled. Remember what? No reply. Footsteps echoed softly behind her. She turned sharply. Daniel stood at the end of the hallway. I saw you leave. Are you okay? She held up her phone. Are you texting me? His brow furrowed. What? She showed him the messages. His expression changed. Not confusion. Recognition. Who sent this? He asked quietly. That's what I'm asking you. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. There are things from high school, things that weren't what they seemed. A pulse of fear flickered in her chest. Like what? Before he could answer, Claire's voice echoed faintly from the dining room. Daniel? The single word carried warning. Daniel hesitated, then looked back at Emma. Meet me outside, 10 minutes. Why? Because if I tell you in there, he said softly, she'll make sure you never hear the rest. Emma's heart pounded. What is going on? He leaned closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could see something unsettled in his eyes. You think I didn't notice you back then, he whispered. Her breath stopped. But someone made sure I didn't. Footsteps approached. Claire's silhouette appeared at the hallway entrance. Daniel stepped away instantly. Claire's gaze moved between them, sharp and unreadable. Everything all right? She asked. Emma forced steadiness into her voice. Fine. Claire smiled again, but this time there was no sweetness left in it, only possession, and something else. Fear. Emma walked back to her table slowly, her mind racing. Daniel didn't imagine her. Someone had interfered. Her phone remained silent now, but the silence felt deliberate, like someone watching, waiting. She sat back down at table 12. Outside the window, the city lights flickered faintly, or maybe her vision was shaking. Across the room, Claire leaned close to Daniel again. This time, Emma saw it clearly. Claire's fingers were digging into his wrist, and Daniel wasn't pulling away. The candle on Emma's table went out completely. No wind, no touch, just darkness swallowing the flame. And in the black reflection of the window, for just a split second, Emma thought she saw someone standing behind her, watching.
What he forgot. The candles stayed dead. The wicks smoked faintly, curling into the air like something recently burned. Emma didn't turn around immediately. She was afraid that if she did, the reflection in the glass would be gone, and she'd have to question her own sanity. Slowly, carefully, she lifted her gaze to the window again. Nothing. Just her pale reflection and the glow of traffic lights behind it. She exhaled. You're imagining things. Her phone vibrated again. Her pulse spiked. Ryan. Parking now. 5 minutes. Relief should have followed. It didn't. Instead, a strange heaviness settled over her chest. Across the restaurant, Daniel was no longer sitting. His chair was empty. Claire was still there, alone, her back straight, her fingers resting calmly on the table, watching Emma, not blinking. Emma felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with clothing. It was the kind of nakedness that came when someone could see through your history, see your old wounds, your teenage heartbreak, your unfinished sentences. Claire's stare didn't waver. Then she smiled and raised her glass slightly in a silent toast. Emma's stomach twisted. Daniel reappeared moments later, emerging from the direction of the bar. He leaned down to Claire and said something. Claire's expression didn't change, but her hand slowly wrapped around his wrist again. Possession. Control. Emma's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He doesn't remember the hallway. Her breathing became shallow. What hallway? She typed back instantly. The reply came fast. The one after the game. The one where you cried. Her throat tightened. She hadn't told anyone about that night, not even Ryan. It had been senior year, after the winter basketball championship. The hallway outside the gym had been nearly empty. She had finally worked up the courage to tell Daniel how she felt. She had rehearsed it in her head 1,000 times, but when she got there, she saw something she hadn't expected. Daniel arguing with someone. With Claire. Claire had transferred to their school that same semester. Emma remembered hiding behind a corner, hearing raised voices. Claire saying something sharp. Daniel looking confused. Then Claire noticing Emma. That smile. That exact same smile. And later, Daniel had acted like nothing happened, like Emma had never been there, like she had never tried to speak. Emma's hands began to shake. Her phone vibrated again. He was supposed to talk to you that night. Cold spread through her veins. How do you know that? Pause. Then, because I stopped him. Emma's heart slammed. She looked up sharply at Claire. Claire was mid-conversation with Daniel, but her eyes flicked toward Emma at the exact moment Emma looked up. Too precise. Too aware. The restaurant door opened behind Emma. A gust of cold air brushed her shoulders. Em? She turned. Ryan stood there, slightly out of breath, hair wind-tousled, holding a small gift bag. He smiled apologetically. I'm so sorry. Traffic was a nightmare. The sight of him felt strangely distant, like he belonged to a different version of the night. It's okay, she said, forcing a smile. He leaned down and kissed her cheek, then slid into the seat across from her. I ordered you something, he said proudly. Chocolate lava cake. Figured we'd start with dessert. She nodded automatically. Ryan followed her gaze briefly. "That guy keeps looking over here," he muttered casually. Her chest tightened. "Old friend," she replied. Ryan glanced again. Daniel quickly looked away. Claire did not. "Doesn't look friendly," Ryan added lightly. Emma swallowed. "It's complicated." Ryan laughed. "High school always is." Her phone buzzed again in her hand. She didn't want Ryan to see it. She angled the screen down. "Meet him outside now." Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. "If you want the truth." She stood abruptly. Ryan blinked. "Everything okay?" "I just need some air." He frowned. "Already?" "I'll be right back." She didn't wait for an answer. She walked toward the entrance, her heart hammering. Behind her, she felt eyes tracking her movement. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. Her breath fogged in front of her. Daniel was already there, standing beneath the red glow of the restaurant sign. "You got the messages too, didn't you?" she asked immediately. His silence answered her. He pulled out his phone and showed her. "Same unknown number. She can't let you remember." Her breathing became shallow. "Remember what?" she typed back instantly. The reply came fast. "That night after the game, the one where you cried." Her throat tightened. She hadn't told anyone about that night, not even Ryan. It had been senior year, after the winter basketball championship. The hallway outside the gym had been nearly empty. She had finally worked up the courage to tell Daniel how she felt. She had rehearsed it in her head 1,000 times, but when she got there, she saw something she hadn't expected. Daniel arguing with someone. With Claire. Claire had transferred to their school that same semester. Emma remembered hiding behind a corner, hearing raised voices. Claire saying something sharp, Daniel looking confused. Then Claire noticing Emma. That smile. That exact same smile. And later, Daniel had acted like nothing happened, like Emma had never been there, like she had never tried to speak. Emma's hands began to shake. Her phone vibrated again. "He was supposed to talk to you that night." Cold spread through her veins. "How do you know that?" Pause. Then, "Because I stopped him." Emma's heart slammed. She looked up sharply at Claire. Claire was mid-conversation with Daniel, but her eyes flicked toward Emma at the exact moment Emma looked up. Too precise. Too aware. The restaurant door opened behind Emma. A gust of cold air brushed her shoulders. "Em?" She turned. Ryan stood there, slightly out of breath, hair wind-tousled, holding a small gift bag. He smiled apologetically. "I'm so sorry. Traffic was a nightmare." The sight of him felt strangely distant, like he belonged to a different version of the night. "It's okay," she said, forcing a smile. He leaned down and kissed her cheek, then slid into the seat across from her. "I ordered you something," he said proudly. "Chocolate lava cake. Figured we'd start with dessert." She nodded automatically. Ryan followed her gaze briefly. "That guy keeps looking over here," he muttered casually. Her chest tightened. "Old friend," she replied. Ryan glanced again. Daniel quickly looked away. Claire did not. "Doesn't look friendly," Ryan added lightly. Emma swallowed. "It's complicated." Ryan laughed. "High school always is." Her phone buzzed again in her hand. She didn't want Ryan to see it. She angled the screen down. "Meet him outside now." Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. "If you want the truth." She stood abruptly. "Blink? Everything okay?" "I just need some air." He frowned. "Already?" "I'll be right back." She didn't wait for an answer. She walked toward the entrance, her heart hammering. Behind her, she felt eyes tracking her movement. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. Her breath fogged in front of her. Daniel was already there, standing beneath the red glow of the restaurant sign. "You got the messages too, didn't you?" she asked immediately. His silence answered her. He pulled out his phone and showed her. "Same unknown number. She can't let you remember." Her breathing became shallow. "Remember what?" she typed back instantly. The reply came fast. "That night after the game, the one where you cried." Her throat tightened. She hadn't told anyone about that night, not even Ryan. It had been senior year, after the winter basketball championship. The hallway outside the gym had been nearly empty. She had finally worked up the courage to tell Daniel how she felt. She had rehearsed it in her head 1,000 times, but when she got there, she saw something she hadn't expected. Daniel arguing with someone. With Claire. Claire had transferred to their school that same semester. Emma remembered hiding behind a corner, hearing raised voices. Claire saying something sharp, Daniel looking confused. Then Claire noticing Emma. That smile. That exact same smile. And later, Daniel had acted like nothing happened, like Emma had never been there, like she had never tried to speak. Emma's hands began to shake. Her phone vibrated again. "He was supposed to talk to you that night." Cold spread through her veins. "How do you know that?" Pause. Then, "Because I stopped him." Emma's heart slammed. She looked up sharply at Claire. Claire.
The story she wrote. Emma stood frozen on the sidewalk long after Daniel and Claire disappeared inside. Cars passed, laughter spilled from nearby bars. A couple brushed by her, arguing softly about reservations and roses. Normal life. But something was wrong. Someone had sent a message from her phone. So am I. Her hands trembled as she opened her message app again. No draft, no outgoing text, no trace. She checked the call log. Nothing unusual. Her reflection in the dark screen looked thinner somehow, exposed, as if the night had peeled off her composure layer by layer. Inside the restaurant, she could see Ryan now, pacing slightly near their table. She inhaled sharply and forced herself to move. When she re-entered, warmth wrapped around her again, but it felt artificial, like stepping into a staged set. Ryan sat down quickly as she approached. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said automatically. "You look pale." "It's just cold." Ryan studied her for a moment longer than usual. Then he followed her gaze. Daniel and Claire were seated again. Claire was no longer pretending to ignore Emma. She was watching openly now, confident, almost satisfied. Ryan leaned in. "Who is that guy, really?" "Daniel," Emma said softly. "We went to high school together." "You dated?" "No." "But you wanted to." It wasn't a question. Emma didn't answer. Ryan sat back slightly. "Does he want you now?" The directness hit hard. "I don't know." Ryan exhaled slowly. "Emma, it's our first Valentine's." Guilt pricked at her. "I know. And you've barely looked at me since I sat down." The truth of that stung. "I'm sorry." He hesitated. Did something happen? She thought about the texts, about the hallway memory, about Claire rewriting history. "I think someone lied to us a long time ago," she said quietly. Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" Before she could answer, the lights flickered, just once. The restaurant murmured collectively, then settled. The violinist paused briefly, then continued. But Emma's chest tightened, because she saw it clearly this time. Claire wasn't startled by the flicker. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. Her eyes were on Emma the entire time, like she'd been waiting for it. Emma's phone vibrated again. Unknown number. He asked her about the hallway. Her stomach dropped. Across the room, Daniel's posture had changed. He looked tense. Claire leaned toward him, speaking quickly. Emma's fingers shook as she typed. "Who are you?" The reply came almost instantly, the part she couldn't erase. Cold rushed through her veins. Erase, rewrite, control. Emma's mind raced back to high school. Small things, details she'd brushed aside, rumors that started and died mysteriously, friends who suddenly stopped talking to her senior year, that one teacher who accused her of cheating based on anonymous concern. Claire had been in the background of all of it, always present, always calm, always innocent. Emma looked up sharply. Claire was no longer at the table. Daniel was alone, confused, scanning the room. Ryan followed her line of sight. "She just disappeared," he said. Emma stood up again without thinking. Ryan grabbed her wrist gently. "Emma, I need to know." "Know what?" She didn't answer. She crossed the restaurant quickly. Daniel saw her approaching. "Where did she go?" he asked immediately. "You don't know?" "She got a text, said she needed to make a call." Emma's heart pounded. "I've been getting texts." "Hers too." He showed her his screen again. Another message. Ask her what she remembers about the locker. Her stomach dropped. Across the room, Daniel's posture had changed. He looked tense. Claire leaned toward him, speaking quickly. Emma's fingers shook as she typed. "Who are you?" The reply came almost instantly, the part she couldn't erase. Cold rushed through her veins. Erase, rewrite, control. Emma's mind raced back to high school. Small things, details she'd brushed aside, rumors that started and died mysteriously, friends who suddenly stopped talking to her senior year, that one teacher who accused her of cheating based on anonymous concern. Claire had been in the background of all of it, always present, always calm, always innocent. Emma looked up sharply. Claire was no longer at the table. Daniel was alone, confused, scanning the room. Ryan followed her line of sight. "She just disappeared," he said. Emma stood up again without thinking. Ryan grabbed her wrist gently. "Emma, I need to know." "Know what?" She didn't answer. She crossed the restaurant quickly. Daniel saw her approaching. "Where did she go?" he asked immediately. "You don't know?" "She got a text, said she needed to make a call." Emma's heart pounded. "I've been getting texts." "Hers too." He showed her his screen again. Another message. Ask her what she remembers about the locker. Her stomach dropped. Across the room, Daniel's posture had changed. He looked tense. Claire leaned toward him, speaking quickly. Emma's fingers shook as she typed. "Who are you?" The reply came almost instantly, the part she couldn't erase. Cold rushed through her veins. Erase, rewrite, control. Emma's mind raced back to high school. Small things, details she'd brushed aside, rumors that started and died mysteriously, friends who suddenly stopped talking to her senior year, that one teacher who accused her of cheating based on anonymous concern. Claire had been in the background of all of it, always present, always calm, always innocent. Emma looked up sharply. Claire was no longer at the table. Daniel was alone, confused, scanning the room. Ryan followed her line of sight.
She just disappeared, he said. Emma stood up again without thinking. Ryan grabbed her wrist gently. Emma, I need to know. Know what? She didn't answer. She crossed the restaurant quickly. Daniel saw her approaching. Where did she go? He asked immediately. You don't know? She got a text, said she needed to make a call. Emma's heart pounded. I've been getting texts. Hers too. He showed her his screen again. Another message. Ask her what she remembers about the locker. Her stomach dropped. Across the room, Daniel's posture had changed. He looked tense. Claire leaned toward him, speaking quickly. Emma's fingers shook as she typed. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly, the part she couldn't erase. Cold rushed through her veins. Erase, rewrite, control. Emma's mind raced back to high school. Small things, details she'd brushed aside, rumors that started and died mysteriously, friends who suddenly stopped talking to her senior year, that one teacher who accused her of cheating based on anonymous concern. Claire had been in the background of all of it, always present, always calm, always innocent. Emma looked up sharply. Claire was no longer at the table. Daniel was alone, confused, scanning the room. Ryan followed her line of sight. She just disappeared, he said. Emma stood up again without thinking. Ryan grabbed her wrist gently. Emma, I need to know. Know what? She didn't answer. She crossed the restaurant quickly. Daniel saw her approaching. Where did she go? He asked immediately. You don't know? She got a text, said she needed to make a call. Emma's heart pounded. I've been getting texts. Hers too. He showed her his screen again. Another message. Ask her what she remembers about the locker. Her stomach dropped. Across the room, Daniel's posture had changed. He looked tense. Claire leaned toward him, speaking quickly. Emma's fingers shook as she typed. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly, the part she couldn't erase. Cold rushed through her veins. Erase, rewrite, control. Emma's mind raced back to high school. Small things, details she'd brushed aside, rumors that started and died mysteriously, friends who suddenly stopped talking to her senior year, that one teacher who accused her of cheating based on anonymous concern. Claire had been in the background of all of it, always present, always calm, always innocent. Emma looked up sharply. Claire was no longer at the table. Daniel was alone, confused, scanning the room. Ryan followed her line of sight. She just disappeared, he said. Emma stood up again without thinking. Ryan grabbed her wrist gently. Emma, I need to know. Know what? She didn't answer. She crossed the restaurant quickly. Daniel saw her approaching. Where did she go? He asked immediately. You don't know? She got a text, said she needed to make a call. Emma's heart pounded. I've been getting texts. Hers too. He showed her his screen again. Another message. Ask her what
Shadows between us. The shattered glass sparkled under the dim red lighting, tiny diamonds on the polished wood floor. The restaurant guests murmured, glancing around nervously, but Claire remained still, calm, too calm. Emma felt a chill creep up her spine. Her hands shook as she gripped the edge of table 12. Ryan reached out, almost instinctively, but she pulled her hand back. Daniel stepped closer to her. That wasn't an accident, he whispered. Emma swallowed hard. It feels like someone wants us to be afraid. Daniel nodded slowly. It's more than that. She's always controlled the narrative. Every memory, every misunderstanding, she orchestrated it. Emma's mind raced. High school incidents that had seemed random now clicked into place. The locker vandalized, friends abandoning her without explanation, rumors she had never questioned. Claire had been behind all of it. She looked toward the mirror behind the bar. Claire's reflection stared back at her. And for a fraction of a second, something else appeared behind Claire's reflection. A dark silhouette, just for a heartbeat, then gone. Emma blinked. Did you see that? Daniel's jaw tightened. Yeah, you're not imagining it. The violinist had stopped playing entirely. Only the murmurs of the restaurant and the faint clinking of glasses remained. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, and the candles flickered again. Emma's phone buzzed silently in her pocket. Unknown number. She can't see me yet. Emma's breath caught. She glanced at Daniel. His expression mirrored her unease. She's... What? Emma asked. Not fully human, Daniel said softly, almost too quietly. Back in high school, I thought I was imagining things that didn't make sense, things that made people scared. But I wasn't. His voice faltered. Emma's stomach dropped. She isn't just manipulative, he continued. She feeds on control, on fear, and if you step out of the path she wants... He didn't finish the sentence. Emma didn't need him to. Across the room, Claire's gaze had fixed on them again, calm but sharper now, almost predatory. Emma felt exposed, naked, not physically but emotionally. Every insecurity, every memory, every fear, it was laid bare under the weight of Claire's stare. Ryan shifted beside her, unaware of the full tension in the air.
"Emma, are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though the words tasted bitter. Claire's reflection moved slightly in the mirror, not perfectly synchronized with her body. Emma noticed the subtle delay. Something about it was unnatural. Emma's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Step outside. Now." Daniel looked at her sharply. "You can't stay in there, not with her around." Emma's pulse raced. "But Ryan—" "She's not human," Daniel said firmly, "and she will manipulate him too if you don't leave." Emma turned, seeing Ryan glance curiously toward Daniel, sensing tension but not understanding. The candles flared violently, then almost simultaneously died, leaving the restaurant bathed in a soft red glow from the walls and the faint neon nebula outside. Claire tilted her head. "Going somewhere?" she asked softly, but there was an edge. Emma swallowed. She felt Daniel's hand brush against hers, not a touch of romance, but solidarity. "We need to go," he whispered. Ryan frowned. "Emma, what's going on?" Emma took a deep breath. I'll explain later. Come with me." They slipped through the exit, the cold February air hitting their faces. The sounds of the restaurant faded, but the tension lingered. Emma's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "She's coming." Daniel's expression darkened. "She can follow us. She always does." Emma's heart hammered. Why is she doing this now, after all these years?" Daniel shook his head. "Because she doesn't want us to remember. She can't have the truth out, ever." A streetlight flickered above them. Shadows danced unnaturally. Emma felt like the city itself was alive, watching, waiting. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You will," Daniel said grimly. "But first, we have to survive tonight." They walked down the sidewalk, their pace quickening. Emma glanced behind them, but no one was there, not yet. Then a shadow shifted near the restaurant window. Claire, or something wearing Claire's shape. Emma's breath caught. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Don't look back." A chill swept down her spine as the shadow lingered for a moment longer before vanishing. Emma realized with sudden clarity, tonight nothing would be simple. Valentine's Day had become a trap, a stage, and they were the players. And Claire was the puppeteer. Something told Emma that if they didn't act carefully, the past they thought was buried would consume them entirely.
The alley behind the roses. Emma and Daniel turned down a narrow side street behind the restaurant. The faint glow of neon signs from the main avenue barely illuminated the alley. Trash bins leaned at odd angles, their lids rattling in the wind, carrying with them a faint, metallic stench. "Are you sure this is safe?" Emma asked, her voice trembling slightly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He scanned the alley, shoulders tense. "Safe? No. Necessary? Absolutely." Emma swallowed hard. Necessary for what? To remember, to fix what she tried to erase. They moved forward, careful not to attract attention. The streetlights above flickered sporadically, casting shifting shadows that danced like figures along the walls. Emma's skin prickled with unease, the kind that comes when you sense something watching you, something not entirely human. "Do you know how she does it?" Emma asked quietly, her hands gripping the strap of her purse like a lifeline. Daniel's jaw tightened. "She manipulates perception, memories, sometimes even reality. People remember what she wants them to remember, forget what she wants buried. I only realized it recently when I saw her again tonight. The texts, the hallway incident, she's been rewriting history all along." Emma's mind reeled. High school experiences, little cruelties, sudden betrayals, pieces of a puzzle she had shoved into a corner of her memory were now forming a pattern. Claire had orchestrated it all. "And the locker?" Emma whispered. Daniel looked at her gravely. "The locker was just the beginning. It was supposed to isolate you, make me forget you. She can make people forget anyone she wants. She feeds on control, the fear, the confusion, the uncertainty." A gust of wind rattled a nearby dumpster, making Emma flinch. Shadows shifted along the alley walls. "I saw her, in the window, but her reflection, it wasn't right. Something was behind her." Daniel's face grew pale. "It follows her, not fully visible to everyone, but if you see it, it's real, and it's dangerous. That's why she's always been careful, always calm. She never lets anyone fully confront it." Emma shivered. "So what do we do?" Daniel's eyes scanned the alley ahead. "We go to the old park, the one behind the high school. She can't follow there, at least not fully." Emma hesitated. "Why there?" Daniel's voice was firm. "Because it's where it all started, the memory she tried to erase, the one she can't fully control anymore. If we face it together, maybe—" He didn't finish the sentence. Emma nodded, swallowing her fear. "Then let's go." The alley seemed to stretch endlessly, shadows elongating with each step. The faint sound of distant traffic faded. The city felt suspended in a tense, red-tinged silence. Suddenly, Emma's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. They shouldn't know yet. Her stomach dropped. "Daniel, she's still texting." He took the phone carefully, reading the message.
She knows we're leaving. She can't stop us outside the restaurant, but she can warn others, create confusion. Emma glanced back instinctively. Shadows twisted unnaturally around the corner. Nothing concrete, but the sensation of being followed intensified. Daniel noticed. Stay close. Don't stop. They moved quickly, hearts hammering. A faint rustle echoed from a dumpster to their right. Emma jumped. Daniel's hand found hers, gripping tightly. You okay? He whispered. I think so, she said shakily. They reached the end of the alley. Beyond it lay the park, its entrance dimly lit. Bare trees stretched skeletal arms toward the night sky, wind whispering between their branches. The scent of wet earth and decaying leaves replaced the metallic alley smell. Daniel paused at the entrance. Here, safe, for now. Emma exhaled, feeling a temporary relief, but then she noticed something chilling. Footprints in the damp dirt path leading deeper into the park. Too small for Daniel, too deliberate for a coincidence. She's here, Emma whispered. Daniel's face hardened. Not entirely, but a shadow of her, maybe. Stay behind me. The park's faint lamplight flickered across the pathway. Every tree branch seemed to move with intent, every shadow reaching towards them like long clawed fingers. Emma's skin prickled with unease, the kind that comes when you sense something watching you, something not entirely human. Emma's phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. You remember everything now. She felt a cold sweat break across her back. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Daniel pulled her close, almost instinctively, and for the first time since entering the restaurant, she felt the sensation of shared purpose, of being seen, truly, by someone who remembered the past alongside her. Let's face it, Daniel said quietly, eyes scanning the darkness ahead. All of it. Tonight. Emma nodded, fear and determination mixing in equal measure. Behind them, in the shadows near the alley entrance, a figure lingered, silent, waiting, patient. Claire, or what she had become. The first true confrontation was about to begin.
The park of forgotten voices. The park stretched ahead, dark and empty, save for the skeletal shapes of trees and the faint glimmer of street lamps along the winding path. Emma's footsteps crunched over damp leaves, the sound unnervingly loud in the stillness. Each shadow seemed alive, each whisper of wind carrying a half-formed word, half-forgotten laughter like echoes from the past. Daniel stayed close. Every so often he glanced around, eyes scanning for unnatural movement. She can't fully enter here, he whispered, but she can touch fragments, create fear, make you see things that aren't there. Emma swallowed hard. Fragments of what? Of memories, things she tried to erase, moments you both forgot or were told never happened. She manipulates them, bends them, makes them feel real, but they're dangerous. Emma's stomach churned. She remembered flashes from high school she'd never understood, fleeting glimpses of Claire where she shouldn't have been, rumors that felt too coordinated, incidents she had brushed off as coincidence. Daniel's hand tightened around hers. Stay with me. Don't let her isolate you. They moved deeper into the park. Shadows stretched like living fingers across the path. The wind swirled through the bare branches, carrying soft whispers that seemed almost human. Emma froze, sure she heard the voice of a friend who had abandoned her years ago, murmuring her name. Emma? Daniel's voice cut through the haze. Don't get distracted. I think I hear her, Emma whispered, her voice trembling. Voices, things from high school, people I thought forgot me. That's her, Daniel said grimly. That's how she works. She makes the past real enough to hurt you, to confuse you. You feel guilt, fear, even nostalgia, but it's a trap. Emma's heart pounded. Every shadow seemed to pulse with life. She glimpsed a figure between the trees, a silhouette that could have been Claire, or a fragment of her imagination, a memory twisted into shape. It moved with perfect coordination, almost mimicking the way Claire had walked inside the restaurant. Suddenly, a cold wind swept the path, and the shadows around them seemed to lean closer, pressing toward them like dark fingers. Emma shivered violently, feeling exposed, naked in the way that only emotional vulnerability can achieve. Daniel stopped abruptly. Here. Emma looked ahead. A circle of bare earth stretched between gnarled trees. In the center, faint impressions in the soil formed a pattern. Footprints, scattered leaves, and something that looked almost like a written message scratched into the dirt. Emma crouched, brushing aside a few leaves. Letters formed. Remember. She felt the hair on her arm stand up. Her chest tightened. Memories, old, hidden, nearly forgotten, began to surge. The hallway after the winter championship, the locker, the whispers, the shame, the confusion. Each memory was raw, naked, and painful. Daniel kneeled beside her. She can't fully erase this. Not here. Not with us together. This is where it all started. Emma's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. They remembered. Now they must choose. Her pulse raced. Choose what? Between fear and truth, Daniel whispered. Between letting her control your memory or taking it back. A rustling came from the trees behind them. Emma spun around, hard in her throat. A shadow flickered, moving unnaturally, faster than it should have been. Claire, Daniel said softly, almost in disbelief, or what she's become. The figure emerged fully from the darkness. Not exactly Claire, yet not entirely different. A reflection of her, twisted, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. It didn't speak, but Emma felt its presence pressing against her mind, probing her thoughts, dredging up shame, regret, and fear.
Stay close, Daniel urged. Don't let it touch your memory. Emma's hands trembled as she gripped Daniel's. The wind howled between the trees, carrying whispers that were almost intelligible. She could hear fragments. You weren't enough. You missed your chance. No, she whispered fiercely. Not anymore. The shadow paused, as if surprised by her defiance. It shimmered, twisting like smoke in the cold night. Daniel drew a deep breath. Now, Emma, remember everything. Not what she tells you, but what you know to be true. Emma closed her eyes, letting the memories rise, letting herself feel the hurt, the love, the longing, everything Claire had tried to rewrite. The locker, the hallway, the winter championship, the moments of quiet longing she had never confessed. They all surged forward, unfiltered, untainted. The shadow recoiled slightly. The air around them seemed to shift. For the first time, the control Claire had wielded over them faltered. Emma opened her eyes. I remember, she said, voice steady. I remember who I was, who I am, who Daniel is, and who you are. The shadow wavered, almost human for a brief moment, then dissipated into the night like smoke. The whispers faded. The wind stilled. Daniel exhaled deeply. It's not over, not fully, but we've taken the first step. Emma's hands still trembled, but now with a mixture of fear and triumph. She can't touch us here, she said. Not together. Daniel nodded. Not fully, but she'll try again. She always does. A silence fell over the park, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. For the first time that night, Emma felt a fragile sense of safety. But in the shadows near the edge of the park, a faint glimmer of movement hinted that Claire, or whatever she had become, was still watching, waiting, patient. And Valentine's Day was far from over.
The confession under the streetlight. The park seemed empty now, but the tension remained like a physical weight pressing down on Emma's chest. Her fingers still clutched Daniel's hand, their connection grounding her amidst the cold February night. Do you understand now? Daniel asked softly, his breath misting in the air. She's never been just Claire. She's a shadow, a force. She thrives on secrets, on silence, on the memories she can twist. Emma nodded, though her mind was still racing. But why target me? Why now, after all these years? Daniel exhaled slowly. Because tonight, you remembered. You remembered together. That's the one thing she can't control. That's why she followed us here. To isolate us again. To confuse us. The sound of distant traffic, muffled laughter, and the occasional car horn seemed almost surreal after the intensity of the park's darkness. A faint streetlight flickered on ahead, illuminating a small clearing with a lone bench. Daniel guided her toward it. Sit, he said gently. Emma sank onto the bench, her body trembling. Daniel crouched beside her. Emma, I have to tell you something. Something I never said before. Something I should have told you in high school. Emma's pulse quickened, her heart hammered in her chest. What is it? He hesitated, then took a deep breath. I loved you. I always have. I just didn't know how to fight against her back then, and I believed her version of reality more than I should have. I thought I was protecting you from disappointment, from pain. But the truth is, I was protecting myself from losing control over my own life. Emma's throat tightened. Years of longing, silence, and heartbreak surged up. The boy she had loved, the one she thought had forgotten her, was here, confessing the truth now. Naked, vulnerable, just like she felt inside. I loved you too, Emma whispered, her voice breaking slightly. Even then, even when I thought you didn't notice me, even when I thought it was too late. Daniel's eyes softened, a mix of relief and sadness crossing his face. It's not too late, not if we can survive tonight, together. Emma nodded, feeling a surge of determination. We can, whatever she throws at us, we face it together. A cold gust of wind swirled through the clearing, rustling the bare branches overhead. The streetlight flickered violently, then steadied. A whisper reached Emma's ears, faint, almost indecipherable. You think you can escape? She stiffened, Daniel's hand squeezed. That's her, he said quietly. Her warning. She can't fully enter here, but she can remind us. She can scare us. She can try to make us doubt. Emma took a deep breath. I won't doubt anymore. Not her, not myself, not you. Daniel smiled faintly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Then we've won a small victory, but there's more to come. More she'll try. Emma glanced toward the shadows beyond the streetlight. Nothing moved, but she felt eyes on them, patient, calculating, waiting for the next moment to strike. I'm ready, she said firmly. Whatever she wants, I'm ready. Daniel's jaw tightened. Good, because Valentine's night isn't over yet, and she's clever. She always has a plan. A soft rustle came from behind a nearby tree. Emma and Daniel both turned instinctively. The shadows shifted unnaturally. A faint shimmer like Claire's silhouette appeared for an instant and vanished. Emma exhaled slowly. She's here, but she won't control us anymore. Daniel nodded. We take back the memories, take back our story, step by step. For the first time that night, the city felt still. The clearing, the streetlight, the shadows, all seemed suspended in fragile calm. But in the darkness beyond, Claire waited, watching, planning, patient. Emma felt fear, yes, but more than that, she felt strength, and for the first time in years, she believed they could face the past, confront the shadows, and reclaim what was theirs. And in that moment, under the flickering streetlight, the first real victory of Valentine's night was theirs.
The park felt quieter now, but the silence was heavy, almost suffocating. The night air carried the faint scent of frost and decaying leaves, mingling with the sharp tang of fear that lingered from the shadows. Emma and Daniel remained on the bench under the flickering streetlight, their hands still intertwined, both tense and alert. "You feel it, don't you?" Daniel murmured. His gaze swept across the park. "She's testing us, watching, probing, trying to make us falter." Emma nodded, gripping his hand tighter. "I can feel her, even if I don't see her. It's like a weight on my chest, something waiting to strike." Daniel's eyes darkened. "It's not just a weight, it's a whisper. Every memory she's manipulated, every lie she's spun, every time she's erased a moment between us, it all echoes here." Emma swallowed hard. "How do we stop it? How do we make it end?" He shook his head slowly. "We don't, not fully. She's always been part of the story, but we can fight back. We can reclaim our memories, our past, and take control of what she tries to erase." A sudden rustle in the trees made Emma jump. A shadow flickered just beyond the dim reach of the streetlight. Her breath hitched. "She's close," Daniel whispered. "She can't enter fully, but she can manifest fragments of herself, make you see things, feel things, test you." Emma's heart pounded. She remembered flashes from high school, the hallway after the championship, the locker, the whispers, the manipulated rumors, the sudden betrayals. They weren't random. They had been orchestrated. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You shouldn't be here." Emma looked at Daniel, his jaw clenched. "She's trying to intimidate us, but we're already here. She can't stop us." A soft, almost inaudible whisper drifted through the trees. Emma froze. It was a voice she knew, but not entirely, a fragment of the past. "You remember what you tried to forget," the whisper hissed, carried by the wind. Emma's hands shook. "Daniel, it's her voice, or part of it." Daniel nodded. "She's testing your resolve, trying to make you doubt yourself. Don't listen. Focus on what you know to be real." Emma closed her eyes, forcing herself to remember. The truth, Daniel's quiet kindness, the small gestures she had loved, the unspoken connection that had always existed between them, the moments Claire had tried to erase. She clung to them like a lifeline. The shadow flickered again, this time closer, beyond the edge of the light. It shimmered, taking on a familiar form. Claire, or what she wanted them to believe was Claire. But the movement was unnatural, too smooth, too precise. "You cannot escape me," the shadow whispered, voice layered with a strange echo. Emma opened her eyes. Fear surged, but beneath it, a rising determination. "Yes, we were," she said firmly. "We remember. We will not let you control us anymore." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good. Hold on to that. That's our strength. That's what she can't take." The shadow paused, as if measuring her resolve. Then it flickered again and vanished, leaving only the soft rustling of leaves in its place. Emma's pulse began to slow, replaced by a fierce clarity. She turned to Daniel. "She's dangerous, but she's not invincible." Daniel nodded. "No, not if we face her together. We take back the past, step by step, and we don't let her manipulate our memories or our hearts." A soft sound drew their attention. Footsteps, distant but deliberate, moving towards them from the park's edge. Emma's chest tightened. "She's here," Daniel whispered, "and this time, she won't just test us, she'll try to force us apart." Emma took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Let her come. We'll face her, together." The shadows in the park deepened, and for the first time that night, Emma felt ready to confront the past, confront the whispers, confront Claire, and finally reclaim her story. The footsteps grew closer. The wind carried a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Claire, or whatever she had become, was approaching, and Valentine's night was reaching its climax.
The memory they took back. The footsteps stopped just beyond the circle of light from the flickering street lamp. Emma and Daniel rose slowly, side by side, their hands clasped tightly. Shadows stretched from the trees, elongating unnaturally, twisting with the faint gusts of wind. A figure emerged. Claire, or at least something wearing her shape, stepped into the dim glow. Her face was calm, eerily serene, but her eyes glimmered with an unnatural light. "You think you can reclaim what I erased?" the shadow hissed. Her voice was layered, a chorus of whispers threading through the night air. Emma swallowed hard. Her pulse raced, but there was no hesitation in her voice. "Yes, we can, and we will. Tonight, you can't control us anymore." Daniel's jaw tightened. "This ends now." The shadow flickered. The air grew colder, heavier. Leaves swirled around them, lifted by an invisible force. Emma could feel the weight of every memory Claire had tried to manipulate pressing against her mind. The locker, the hallway, the stolen chances, the whispered lies. But Emma did something new. Instead of shrinking from the memories, she reached for them. She summoned them fully into her mind, unfiltered, unaltered, raw. Every emotion she had buried, longing, hurt, love, courage, she held on to them tightly. Daniel did the same. His own memories, the confusion, the frustration, the unspoken feelings for Emma all rose up, clear and unbroken. The shadow flinched, subtly at first, then more violently. The air rippled as if reality itself were bending under the weight of reclaimed truths. "You cannot have them," the shadow screeched, voice echoing unnaturally. "They belong to me!" Emma's eyes burned with clarity. "No, they belong to us." Daniel stepped closer to her, unwavering. "You've controlled the story for too long. It ends now." The shadow twisted and wavered, shape flickering between the familiar Claire and something darker, more distorted. It lunged toward them, a silent scream that pressed against their minds. Emma and Daniel stood firm, anchoring each other. Every memory Claire tried to warp or erase solidified instead, forming an unbreakable chain of truth between them. And then, with a sharp, silent exhalation of the night air, the shadow dissipated. Not with a scream, not with a crash, but like smoke carried off by the wind. The oppressive cold lifted, the shadows settled back into their natural forms, and the park returned to quiet. The kind of quiet that feels empty, but safe. Emma collapsed onto the bench, her body shaking, but her mind clear. Daniel knelt beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "We did it," he whispered. Emma nodded slowly. "We remembered, and we didn't let her take it." A soft gust of wind moved through the trees, carrying with it a faint hint of warmth. It felt like a promise, of safety, of reclaimed history, of possibility. Daniel smiled gently. "Valentine's night isn't ruined after all, not if we end it together." Emma returned the smile, a mix of exhaustion and relief. "I guess we just wrote our own ending." He took her hand, holding it tightly, firmly, as if sealing the night in memory. "And no one, not her, not anyone, can take it from us again." For the first time that night, Emma felt truly free. The fear, the manipulation, the shadows of the past all were behind her. What remained was clarity, love, and the promise of a future they could share untainted by the lies that had haunted them for years. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, they walked out of the park together, hearts steady, hands clasped, ready to face a world where the past belonged to them and only them. Valentine's Day had been a test, a nightmare of memories and shadows, but they had survived. And in doing so, they had reclaimed the love that had always been theirs. The city stirred around them, indifferent to the battles fought in its quiet corners. But Emma and Daniel knew the truth. Tonight, they had won, together. And the shadows that once haunted them would never take their story again.